So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. I've had the Huawei P20 Pro for about 48 hours now, and I want to share with you my honest feelings. I want to get the elephant out of the room right away. Now, the Huawei P20 Pro, of course, we know that you cannot get it in the US and carrier stores, but you can get it third party at places like eBay and Amazon. And that tells you right there that Huawei smartphones are not officially banned from the US. Huawei has been banned from military bases and government use and more like those kind of things, not from consumers, but we don't know how long that will last. And this all comes based on concerns of spying, but I'm not going to get into this too much. I don't know a lot about it. I'm not a security expert. I don't follow things that much like that. I just review phones, and I feel like this is a really nice phone that you should at least consider if it's in your country. If you're not from the US, maybe we can help you out. If you're here and you want to try one and you're not really concerned about that, you can still buy one third party at this current time of making this video. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the first thing I thought initially when I seen this phone, and that's the build quality has been pretty premium, very nice feel in the hand. It's got aluminum sides around the sides. On the back, you do have a glass build here, and you do have a USB-C at the bottom. I don't like how they did get rid of this headphone jack that they had on prior Huawei devices. It kind of pulled an Apple move, and that's something that people have been complaining about for a long time, and I'm happy that Samsung didn't follow this on their Galaxy S9 Plus, but the fact that Huawei followed this, I don't know. I don't really like that too much, but at least the speakers were very nice on this device. This device also has Dolby Atmos, just like the Galaxy S9 Plus. Now, of all Android phones I've ever used, this one's the closest to an iPhone 10 that I felt ever. Seriously, it's the closest phone to an iPhone 10 that I felt. I mean, the feel is almost identical in the hand. Sans, the iPhone 10 has a more centered, heavy feel. Like it just feels weightier because it's more weight in a smaller body. So the iPhone 10 might feel slightly heavier on the day-to-day just because of its smaller body, but at the same time, the stainless steel sides feel a little more slimier than these aluminum sides on the P20 Pro. So overall, I would call the build quality feel in hand equal to that of the iPhone 10. Now, I haven't had it long enough to give you my opinions on how it scratches and the actual quality of the screen and stuff like that to, say if the quality of the, how long it lasts over time is as good. But I can tell you just on this 48 hours that how it feels in the hand, just the same as an iPhone 10 at a much cheaper price. I want to get into the software a little bit with the Huawei P20 Pro. I mean, first thing I thought when I first got this, honestly, is it's just like my Honor 7X. It is EMUI, so it felt very similar to that, but I was overwhelmed, and I was overwhelmed by what? All the features in this phone. And not that they had a bunch of features, because there's a lot of features in Samsung phones, there's a lot of features in other Android phones, but over here on this device, they're just hidden everywhere. Like I couldn't even find the always on display. I had to go into like security and then like lock screen or something, and then it was like buried all the way down here. So like this software, you're just going to be playing with this stuff all day trying to find stuff, and I didn't really like that at all. I felt like this was a really complex phone to learn, and if I wasn't the type of person who's used 1,000 phones, like if I was just a regular consumer trying this phone out, I probably would give up on trying to find some features and just be like, you know what, this phone's too hard, I might be taking it back. Like it's that, it's not that complex, but it's definitely that convoluted, like where things are. It's just not laid out very nicely in my experience so far. So I didn't like the software so far when it comes to how things are laid out. It just doesn't look clean to me overall. And a lot of people might resort to using something like Nova Launcher to give this more of a pixel feel on this device, which can help out quite a bit, but it doesn't take away the fact of what I was talking about with the settings menu. It's a lot going on there. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everything is bad about the software. I'm just saying that finding things, it's going to take you some time to learn. And one thing I've really loved about this phone is that, this phone actually included a dark mode. It's kind of hidden again, like I talked about earlier, but in the battery settings, if you go down here and you go to this darken interface colors, it has a full blown dark mode. So like it'll change the UI to a dark mode. I'm going to turn it off for the video, but that's nice to see. I mean, a lot of people on iOS been wanting that for an iPhone for a long time, not included, but you get it here on the P20 Pro. So that's nice to see as well. I think it's pretty obvious that Huawei took some inspiration from Apple as well when it comes to their whole software UI. I mean, look at the phone icon. It is similar all day. A lot of the icons, like those Squircle looking icons or whatever they're called, the way they're designed, they look very similar, and even the folders are kind of the same color as an Apple device. So there's definitely some Apple inspiration going on here for the Huawei. They couldn't exactly copy it because that would be lawsuits all day, every day. But, the first thing I thought when using this phone is that this is the most iPhone feeling Android I've ever seen. So if you want an iPhone feeling Android device, you really probably will like the P20 Pro. Now, what I mean by that is not that it's as smooth or the same exact feel as an iPhone, but the way the icons are designed, the way the settings menu looks, it's got that similar look as an iPhone, whereas the Pixel 2 XL might feel as fluid as an iPhone, but it's a very different experience altogether. This one tries to hit home on a lot of the similar features that an iPhone offers. I mean, it's down to the face unlock. It has a face unlock that even when you unlock it, it does that little lock icon thing, just like an iPhone 10. It's also got fingerprint scanner like some older iPhones had. It also has a notch here. You can hide the notch, which they tried to one up Apple on that one. Going into the camera, this is where it doesn't look too similar, but they do include something like Apple offers again with the motion photos here, live photos for Apple. So there's a lot of inspiration here. Not everything is exactly the same, but like I say, a lot of things very similar to an iPhone 10 here. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, what about that chin at the bottom? How do you feel about this? Well, if you remember back to my iPhone 10 original videos, I didn't like how the notch was so large cutting into the content of the display. And one thing I liked about the iPhone 10 quite a bit was the bottom of the display just kind of went all the way down to the bottom. That's sexy design there for the iPhone 10. And now over here, Huawei was on their way down and they just said, well, let's just stop it right there and add this home button. When clearly they know how to put a fingerprint on a rear of a device. They did it on the Honor 7X. They've done it on the Mate SE. Why not just slap one right there? You might have to put the cameras in the middle, or this would look kind of off with a fingerprint here and then cameras over here. But you could have put the cameras in the middle, put a fingerprint right here, pull this display all the way down. You would have had almost a perfect design, just this little tiny notch still in the way a little bit, but still. This whole chin thing, I don't really like it, to be honest with you. And one thing I don't like that much is the home button. While very fast, don't get me wrong, this fingerprint scanner, one of the fastest I've ever seen, it's very thin. So like when you're trying to use it for gesture things, like bringing like the multitasking up, because there's a way to do that, it sometimes is inaccurate. So I don't like how thin this home button is, and it also takes away from the design. So overall, I'm not feeling this chin on the whole so far at the bottom of this device. It's nice that the Huawei P20 Pro did come with an always on display. I don't have it enabled right now, but it does have always on display. I did like that. Charging this device has been very fast with the included supercharger, which is like a fast charger for the Huawei P20 Pro. One of the fastest I've seen on Android devices. Is a very fast charging device, and that battery life, since we're talking about charging, has been stellar. 4,000 milliamp hour, and they really come through and deliver here on this battery life. This thing can just keep chugging along. I mean, I never finished a day. I only had 2 days so far, but like yesterday, I was out all day, came home with 71% battery life. So if you're looking for an all-day warrior phone, this phone is it when it comes to the battery life. Just like the Mate 10 Pro before it, this phone is definitely it. So talking a little bit about the cameras, the camera UI, again, just like the settings menu, at first is daunting. There's a ton of features here, and you kind of got to know what you're doing to get the right photo. You got to use the pro mode if you want maybe some of the best exposure you can get on this phone. Going into more, you got to kind of learn these options in here. You got the slow-mo, panorama, monochrome, lighting, painting, HDR, time-lapse. We'll go through more of this in the full review. But the ones I really liked the most was the monochrome, and I haven't tried out the slow-mo, but I did like the good food mode. That really touched up some photos. But going in the photos and settings, Master AI is right out of the box turned on, and this kind of makes photos look fake, so I don't really like the Master AI. I recommend you turn that off if you are using a P20 Pro and you want a more natural-looking photo. Turn off the Master AI, because sometimes it's off and it really over sharpens and oversaturates photos, makes them look very fake in my opinion. The focus is on point with the 40 predictive focus point. This thing is on point. Focus is strong on this device, very good in video as well when it comes to focus. Now video does have an issue with stabilization. I've heard about it and I've tested it, and you're going to see in a little bit my examples here. But the focus on this phone is spot on. So if you like focusing, you like really good focus, this is some of the best focusing I've ever seen on a smartphone. Now going over to the portrait mode, let me go over to the portrait mode. This has produced some pretty good bokeh as well so far. In the night mode, I still haven't tested this, so I can't give you honest thoughts on that so far. But I tried it in a dark lit area and it really brightened the photos. So I tried it like in a indoors in a bright area or dark area, and it really brightened it up. So that was nice. This whole aperture mode, I haven't used this much, but really you can just change right here the aperture, and it just makes photos just another thing you can do to make your photos look a little bit better. But if you go into the settings here and go into resolution, you can see you have 40 megapixel camera here I didn't actually like the photos produced from that 40 megapixel image. I know you can blow it up and, edit it up in Lightroom, so the pros will love that, but the 10 megapixel for most folks is going to be just fine. Overall, I was not really happy with this front facing camera. It was pretty disappointing. I know, hello, how you doing over there? Very soft images so far and really over sharpened, and it looked a lot like the $200 Honor 7X from that front camera, so I'm not very impressed with that. You can do 1080p, but you have to do in video, you can do 1080p on the front, but you have to turn off the beauty mode. You got quite a few features on the front here as well. Overall, the camera UI, while I think it does have quite a bit it's offering, it's not the most simple to use, and definitely some of the other phones out there have this beat when it comes to everyday use. But the pros, the people who really want to dig in and tweak and be manual with their camera, they're really going to like this. But I'm going to shut up here. This is my thoughts on it so far. Take a look at these photos and let's see how it performed. So here's some 4K with the Huawei P20 Pro, and you can see this is how it kind of looks, just walking a little bit, and you can see there's just a little bit of shake here. The OIS not on board is really not making this scene or this walk be too easy. I'm in my backyard here. You can see it's a little bit shaky, it's not too steady, but if you do have steady hands, the focus is pretty good. Say hello, Peyton. Say hello to the P20 Pro. Okay, so here's the 1080p example. You can see that this is probably OIS on board, optical image stabilization. Let's go ahead and walk. Come on, let's walk a little bit and see how this one does. This should be a lot smoother in comparison to the other sample I just showed you. And you can see again, there's my dog. And that's the 1080p clip example for the P20 Pro. Hey, say hello to the P20 Pro. They're trying to see you there, bud. Say hello. One thing I also liked a lot about this phone was the phone call quality. It was very good reception everywhere I went, even though it's in the US here, and had pretty much 4 to 5 bars everywhere. And I also had, really good phone call quality. Very loud speakers. Audio is great. And I recommend it for a phone. It's a good phone part. Like if you like phone calls, very good phone call quality. Some of the best I've seen on an Android device. We talked about camera. We talked about my honest feelings with battery so far. We talked about the notch. We talked about pretty much everything that matters here. But I think the performance is one area that I really enjoyed as well. Even though it's a Kirin 970, it competes more directly with a Snapdragon 835 series. It's been pretty smooth, and the whole multitasking thing has been great as well. So it multitasks very nicely, had no issues with performance. It's not quite as fluid and fast feeling as a Galaxy S9, but sometimes the S9 twitches, where this one didn't really twitch at all. The screen on the whole, I think, is way better on the Galaxy S9. But still, this is really close to an iPhone 10 screen. So if you like the 10 screen, you'll really like this one. And that's it so far. I think on a scale of 1 to 10 so far, this phone is about an 8. I think it had the potential to be maybe the perfect device if Huawei wouldn't over sharpen that front camera. The rear cameras, I think they're a little bit harder to use than most phones, making this phone probably out of the question for people who want something simple and just point and shoot. But if you really know how to work these cameras, they can outdo some of the best flagships out there. But that's not always the best option for people who just want a quick point and shoot camera. Lastly, the software. I mean, the software, it does have a lot of features, but I just don't think it's quite up to the level as a Pixel phone, a Galaxy phone, or even an iPhone. So this will probably be fourth in line for software. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, enjoyable, entertaining, informative, click that like button for me. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more. Be sure to be well, and peace.